Joining me now is the Arbery family attorney, Lee Merritt. Mr. Merritt, thank you so much for joining us this hour. I want to start with that video that we played a portion of because it's become so critical in our understanding of what has happened here and really has changed the tide. Some were wondering if we would have even be at this point if that video had not surfaced. Have you been able to determine who filmed it and why it just surfaced now?
Well, the video was filmed by one of individuals I consider a suspect, which is William Bryan. He is one of the people who initially made a call about Mr. Arbery's presence in the neighborhood jogging. He pursued Mr. Arbery, and eventually he was present and filmed his murder.
What are you still trying to get answered about what happened on that day in that moment? How has this case been handled up until now?
Well, I'm most concerned about the level of corruption, quite frankly, of the early investigators. The Glenn County Police Department should have arrested these men on the day of the shooting. If all they needed was probable cause the crime was committed. But even beyond that, the District Attorney Barnhill's statements that justified the shooting and what role that one of the shooters' relationships with the district attorney's office played and why they're still free today.
What is your perspective? I mean, you said that there's definitely been a little bit of corruption, you believe, in the way it has been handled, but how have the police and the district attorney's office been handling this case in the way that there's been a delay in making an arrest so far? This is something that, as we mentioned, happened in February. And as I noted, we probably would not have been here had that video not leaked and created this outrage so far.
Right. It's the law enforcement community's failure that is the biggest problem with this case. I can understand that COVID-19 changed the judicial process a bit, that the grand jury process isn't available, but the district attorney office has the opportunity to directly indict these men. They can also at any moment simply issue a warrant for their arrest based on the evidence that exists. Their failure to do that, the failure for any state agency with authority to arrest these men to do so after almost 3 months is really scary for the Black community, not only in South Georgia, but around the country.
Do you feel that this family can get justice in the state of Georgia with the way it has been handled so far? Or do you want to see this at a higher level or perhaps even a federal level and their involvement?
You know, there are a lot of mechanisms to keep bias out of the case, even at the state of Georgia level. I think if state charges go forward against these men, then a special prosecutor should be appointed because of the obvious bias. That is not a rare remedy that often happens. There exists some sort of conflict between prosecutor's office and the defendant. But I also think it's appropriate that the federal government get involved, that the Department of Justice not only investigate what happened, but investigate the cover-up the last 3 months.
What does justice look like for the Arbery family? How do they want to see this resolved? I mean, it's difficult to even use that word when their son is killed in broad daylight, but what semblance of justice could bring closure to this family?
The family of Ahmaud Arbery are well aware that they will never get Ahmaud back, and that will be, of course, the closest thing to justice that they will want. However, these men can be fully prosecuted according to the law. Everyone who conspired to hunt and kill Ahmaud Arbery can go to jail for life because this is one of the most heinous crimes that I think we've seen in this generation.
I wanted to ask you about something that Charles Blow wrote in a column about Ahmaud Arbery's death. He writes, the most infuriating part of most of the cases in which unarmed Black men are killed, either by the police or vigilantes, is the lack of arrest, prosecution, or conviction. It is not any suggestion that the killers were right morally, but rather, in most cases, it could be reasonably argued that the killings were legal. You have unfortunately represented families in many cases like this. It is painful to watch so many cases in our country happen like this. What is your reaction to that assessment?
Yeah, that is why we have called this incident a lynching. That's why officer-involved shootings, which often result in people not being arrested. And you're right, I represent the family of Tatiana Jefferson, the man who murdered her, Aaron Dean, who is home right now. I represent the family of Bolton John. Amber Geiger remained free until we went through this entire legal process. When most of us, when we commit a violent crime, we go to jail right away. That shows that the system works for us. But for the Black community, we've been getting the signal over and over and over again that the criminal justice system isn't designed to work for our community.
It is an absolutely disturbing story, and we hope to keep the spotlight on it on a national level. Lee Merritt, thank you so much for joining us, and keep us posted on what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.